It won't happen again. It was just a glitch.
Gregory, be still. I think she's found us.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to another discussions video. Now today we are going to be doing a sort of general review of Security Breach from when the first teaser was released to when I replayed it earlier this year around the start of the channel. So it's going to be a bit more of a personal review of the game rather than a like, here's what people were thinking when the trailers were released, and here's what people were thinking when the game was released. It's going to be more of sort of how I was thinking of the game. So like what I thought of the trailers, what I thought of when the game released, and then what I thought of it earlier this year. So it's a bit more of a personal review of the game rather than anything like I don't know how to word it, but you know what I'm saying. It's a personal review of the game. So I kind of wanted to start with talking about the trailers, so before the game was released, and kind of some of the stuff leading up to Security Breach's release, because when the first teaser was released, man, I'm saying released a lot in this video. When the first teaser was released, I still remember that super vividly. Like, seeing that teaser, that the game looked awesome. I was hyped for this game. It looked really cool. It looked like it was gonna be a ton of fun. I was like, I think we knew it was gonna. Did we know it was gonna be free roam at that time? I'm trying to remember, because I feel like we didn't, but I think it was kind of assumed it was going to be free roam. So seeing that, I was like, this is going to be awesome. And then of course you have the most iconic part of that original teaser, which was the Vanny jump scare. And I still think that's probably one of my favorite jump scares in all of FNAF, because it's such a unique sound. And I wish they had just used it in the game, but we'll get to that later. But that first teaser, I remember seeing it and I was like, this is going to be a ton of fun, because I thought it was going to be more like, not as story driven. Like, when obviously you don't know that much when you see just a teaser, but I remember being like, there's obviously going to be somewhat of a story to it. There usually are. And there usually is a story in these FNAF games. But I thought it was going to be more like you actually have to run around and hide from Vanny, and you have to, kind of play it more like that. Like, you kind of have to actually hide and work your way towards places. Obviously, that didn't end up being the case, but that's sort of how I thought the game was going to be, and I was really looking forward to it. I thought it was going to be an awesome game. And then the second teaser came out. I guess the official trailer then is what it was, and I think it was the gameplay trailer, I'm pretty sure. And I think that one came out early 2021, and that one got me even more hyped for the game because it looked really cool. And we had, like, I think it was Burn Trap talking over top. I think that's in the gameplay trailer, right? But I just remember seeing all of it and being like, this is gonna be even more awesome than I thought it was gonna be. Like, it looked cool. It looked like it was gonna be scary. We had a ton of cool locations to go visit. I was really looking forward to it. And then there was the third trailer that came out in, I think, October. And at that time, we kind of knew things were getting delayed. And it was kind of, there was issues with the game. But it still looked like it was going to be a ton of fun. It still looked like it was going to be a blast and a really cool game. And I was still really hyped for it. But I was starting to be more, I'm trying to think. Like, not suspicious, but kind of like, I'm trying to think of the word that it would be, but like I was more hesitant maybe with the game, because at that point it was getting delayed. People were talking about that it was being rushed, and I was like, it might not be as good as it looked like it was going to be. And so I started to get a little bit more suspect of it, but I was still really hyped for the game's release. Now, before we get into the official game's release, because obviously, like, just kind of talking about the trailers is just going to be, it was just a brief section. But before we actually get into the, I guess, like the real chunk of the video, which is talking about the game, just two things first. First of all, leave a like on the video, because, you know, why not? And then you might as well subscribe if you're new here, because you might as well. Whatever. I don't know. A little bit of a plug. But also, if you're new here, these discussion videos are more rambling videos. So if you're like, why does this kind of seem like he doesn't know what he's going to say? Or why does it seem like, you know, he's kind of stumbling for words, or he pauses at moments? Because it's all just sort of like it's almost just like a one take, sit down and record this, and I just kind of ramble on about stuff. So if you're fine with that, you know, awesome. If you're like, oh, it needs to be more structured, too bad. I like doing it like this. But anyway, just a little bit of a, I guess, breather before we get into the main part of the video. So moving on to the game's release. Now, I think it was released on what? I think it was December 16. I'm pretty sure. Now, I didn't buy it right away, but I bought it on, I don't remember when I bought it, but I first played it on January 1st of 2022. So relatively recently after it was launched. Now, I'm sure there was probably a few patches that went in by the time I played it, but it was still a huge buggy mess. I remember playing through it, and at that time I had a decent laptop, but like it was running like potatoes at parts. Like, it was not, sometimes it would run really bad. There would be times, like, I remember the chase section at the start where Monty breaks through the fence, and then Roxy's chasing you, and then Chica joins in, and they're all chasing you. Like, I would run through a door and the entire game would just freeze, and the map didn't load in. I was stuck, and then I would get jump scared, and I'd have to start the whole section over again. And so trying to get through that section took me like a long time, because it would keep freezing after Chica showed up, and I just couldn't get past that part. I mean, eventually I did, but it was just like a stinging fight for survival trying to get through there, because it just kept freezing and breaking, and the map wouldn't load. That part was a mess. And I don't remember everything, because that was like 2.5 years ago, and I didn't record any of it at that time. But it was I just remember it being a complete mess, and stuff wouldn't load, animations were off, like it was a disaster. And I know it was even worse for a lot of people who played it like day of. I mean, some of the most well-known parts are like the Markiplier runs into glitches compilations. Like, you see they pop up for me every now and then, but it's like there's just so many glitches that he ran into, and it was a real disaster of a launch for the game. Like, on the one hand, you kind of think maybe they should have delayed it a little bit more to kind of polish everything off and kind of make sure everything was like good to go. But on the other hand, they already had delayed it for like months, so it was sort of like a fight between, do they delay it longer and make people have to wait longer for the next game, or do they just release it in a really bad state? And I get the argument for people that they should have that they needed to release it sooner, but I think they should have waited. Like, even if they had like launched it in January or February, like give it another month or two to kind of just go through and clean up some of the bugs. Because I would think like even a month or two after the game launched, they had patches out there to kind of fix a lot of this stuff. So they should have just waited and actually kind of ignored people wanting the game to get launched sooner. But man, it was a disaster of a launch. Now, I guess to kind of, maybe I'll wait to talk about like the actual like story and gameplay. I think I'll do that when I talk about my replay when I played it earlier this year. Because I don't remember that much aside from like most of the bugs. I don't remember that much from when I played it in 2022. Although I do remember, I think when I played it, they didn't have a save point yet. Because I know that was one of the biggest complaints, was that after you beat the game, right? You get to the end, you get to the door, and Freddy's like, "Hey buddy, you gotta get out of here, or you could stay." He's like really pushing for you to leave, and then he's like, "Never mind, you can stay if you want to." But I remember that if you decide to stay, there's no save points. And I think that was a huge mistake on their part, like on Steel Wool and them, because the fact that you would have to replay getting to the door, staying with Freddy, and then have to go do everything else without being able to save, major blunder. I don't know what they were thinking with that one. Like, oh cool, let's make people waste even more of their time because there's no save points. Like, I mean, I get the idea, but it was another fail there. I don't know why they didn't just put a save point in, because I mean they did later, which I'll talk about that when we get to the actual review. But man, it was something else. But on top of all that complaining, I still really loved the game. I mean, I still do now, but I remember back then, it was a mess, it was a disaster, but I loved the game. And it was sort of the game that really kicked off FNAF for me. I mean, I've had games in the past. I've talked about FNAF 2 was where I started. FNAF 4 was a big one. And then stuff like Pizza Sim or Help Wanted were like also kind of big games for me in terms of FNAF. But Security Breach was really like the first game that I went and I bought the game and I played it. And so it has its special place in my heart, and I think I put it on the top 3 of my favorite FNAF games, just because I really love that game. It's a mess, but it's a nice mess. It's a beautiful mess, if you will. But I guess then we can move on to the official review of the game, which will be me talking about when I played it earlier this year, as like one of the first series on the channel. So when I first started actually posting videos on the channel, I think my first series was Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, and then I think I played like a FNAF fan game or something. And then I wanted Security Breach to be like, I guess, the leading off series in terms of FNAF content, because like I said, I love Security Breach. And so I thought it'd be fun to actually replay it. And I know it was still one that's like relatively, I'm trying to think, it's relatively popular still. And so I wanted it to be the series I replayed. And it had been 2 years since I played it, so I wanted to just replay it again. And upon replaying it, it was a lot more polished. It was a lot better. I didn't experience as many bugs. That doesn't mean I didn't experience any, but I didn't experience as much. And I guess we'll talk about that first, and then I'll kind of talk about my overall thoughts with like the story and stuff like that, because I do have some issues with that as well. So I guess in terms of bugs that I experienced, there weren't as many that were like glaringly bad, but one that I remember and that I thought was really funny was I have a clip of it. It's a short on the channel, but Freddy, I was trying to get Freddy into an elevator, and so I was calling him and I was hearing him run, but I didn't see him anywhere. And then out of nowhere, he phases through the elevator and practically jump scares me because he runs right past me as he phases through the elevator. And so I was like, what the heck? But I mean, it's not like a bug that breaks the game or that, you know, gets me killed or anything, but it was like, that's a strange bug to experience. Like, he just phases through an elevator door. I'll have footage of it up now, but so that's probably the only bug that I can really think of that was like, I guess, a crazy one. There wasn't too many upon the replay, but yeah, I guess we can get into the main review of the game itself, which is, I guess, technically what this video is supposed to be, but I spent most of it rambling on about nonsense. So I'll talk about characters, I'll talk about story wise and gameplay wise, and I'll just make it relatively brief, but I mean, gameplay wise might be a little bit more, but you know, whatever. Anyway, I'll just ramble on about stuff. That's what I like to do anyway. So to start, we'll start with characters and what I liked, what I didn't like, and how much screen time, I guess you could say, they had. So to start, I will talk about the three that are kind of there, but they're not, I mean, they're important, but they're not as important to the story. So Monty, or Montgomery Gator, probably my least favorite of the animatronics in this game. I don't know, he's just a big gator that shows up and he kind of chases you around. Like, there's really not much to him. I think he killed Bonnie. That's about it though. We snap him in half and then Cassie drowns him, but that doesn't really pertain to this video. Not a fan of his character, but he is a cool looking character. I guess that's really about it. There's not much to talk about with him. I don't really care for him all that much. We'll talk about Roxy next. She's probably up there in my favorite characters from the game. I used to not like her, but I think kind of looking at it in the sense, looking at her character in the sense of she's an AI that's like super self-conscious, it makes you feel bad, especially when you like hit her with a singing go-kart and she's just like walking around crying and just being all sad. Like, you almost feel bad. You're like, oh, now I'm making her more self-conscious, so now I just feel bad. So I do like her character for that. It's an interesting way to develop it, because like Monty didn't have that. Monty's just a big brute that just kills people. And then Chica we'll talk about, but she's just like a big robot. So Roxy and Freddy are the only ones that really seem like they have an actual personality. And so I think it makes her character more dynamic, especially in Ruin, when she's actually kind of like a good guy. So, but I'm not talking about Ruin in this video. But that did kind of help Roxy be more of a better character. Chica is just a big robot that likes to eat, especially likes to eat pizza. Yeah, there's really not much to that. I do like that she's more robotic, because it makes her a little bit more creepy. However, I don't like the fact that she can just teleport, and whenever you get spotted, she just appears right behind you. I think that's a bit unfair at times, but I do like her more robotic attitude, because it does make her a bit more creepy, and especially when you destroy her, and so she's just running around being even more creepy. It's like, yeah, it's a decent character, but I mean, like Monty, there's really not much to talk about for her. Like, she's just a big robot that acts like a chicken and eats food. So, not too much there. Didn't really care for her character, but also didn't really, like, hate her character. She's just kind of there. We could probably do Sun and Moon next before we get into, like, the big characters. Sun and Moon, they're cool, I guess. I had a couple, I just remember this, but I had a couple bugs with Sun. One time he caught me, and then he started bringing me back to, like, the front of the daycare, and then as he was, like, doing his little skip, he stopped, spun 180, and then started moonwalking back to where we were supposed to go. I don't think that was supposed to happen, but he did that anyway, and I'll have the video up now, but I don't know why he did that, but that's another bug that he had. But overall, I do like the characters. I think Sun is okay. I'm not a fan, but he seems nice enough. And then Moon, I'd say is pretty cool. There's really not much to talk about for him either. I mean, they get more development in Ruin, but overall, you know, he's just a big scary robot moon guy. Like, there's really not too much for me to talk about there. So I like the character. I think it's a pretty dynamic character, but also he's just a big scary moon guy, so there's not much for me to go off of with that. So I guess with those character breakdowns kind of done, we can go over like the three big characters, I guess. I'm not going to talk about Gregory all that much. He's just a kid and he just runs around, so I'm not going to talk about him for all that much. There's already people who have done that, so not what I'm going to do. Freddy, on the other hand, is a very interesting character because he's a good guy, unless he runs out of power and then he kills you. But he's a good guy who also probably shouldn't be a good guy because he's a big robot, but yet somehow he's nice. And I do think it's interesting. I do think it's interesting to finally have like an animatronic that's a good character, because we've had some in the past, like the puppet, who are out there doing stuff for good, but are also like, I'll just jump scare you anyway. So it's interesting to have a character who doesn't really do that. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna help you and we're gonna go on an adventure. So it's interesting to have a different character dynamic like that. Oh, sorry, I was kind of yawning there. So it's interesting to have a different character dynamic, but I mean, he's really just a good guy, and that's really about it. I'm not gonna go into lore or speculation, but he's a good guy, and I think he's fun. He's got great voice acting too. I didn't really talk about that, but the voice acting in this game is really good. So yeah, I guess that's Freddy. We'll talk about Vanny next. She's probably got the most I want to talk about because she was heavily underutilized in this game. I really don't know what they were thinking, because they pushed her in the marketing. Like, she was the focal point of the marketing. She was the new villain, like the new big bad villain, and so we were all really excited to see Vanny as this cool villain. And then Vanessa had the idea that she was probably Vanny, but it would be interesting to see this sort of dual character identity, I guess. Like, kind of an interesting thing to look forward to. And then the game comes out and you go, oh, where's Vanny? She's like not here. She shows up twice at the start, not at the start, but close to the start of the game. You see her skip past a charging station, and then she kind of chases you a little bit when you're in Lost and Found, and that's about it at the start. And then she kind of just shows up every now and then, like, not all that often, but she'll just kind of appear at random points. And so it sort of just seems like a few and far between appearances of this character who is supposed to be the main villain. And I would say probably even less utilized than Circus Baby in Sister Location. Because at least Circus Baby talks to you every night. Unlike Vanny, who kind of just shows up whenever she feels like it, I guess. It just seems like an even bigger waste. Because it was like, I was really looking forward to actually having to hide from this character. Like, I thought it was going to be cool to be like, alright, there's this character that's out there that we have to like hide with Freddy or hide under tables. Like, I thought it was gonna be cool, and then she's like not there. And it's like, I don't know, it's probably one of the biggest disappointments I have with Security Breach, because she's everywhere in the marketing, but she's not even in the game. Like, she is, but she's hardly in the game. And I just wish that we could have seen the original like ideas that the developers had for this game, because I think it would have been cool to see her actually utilized in a scary way. She doesn't even show up for the Burn Trap boss fight. Like, have her in there, but she's not even there. So I don't know. And like, she doesn't have a boss fight. You kind of just, I don't know, you can either free her or kill her, so there's not really much going on with that. I just think a huge disappointment in terms of utilization. However, in terms of character design, really awesome. I love the Vanny character design. It's a cool looking bunny design, because it's obviously based off of stuff like Glitch Trap, which makes sense. It's a homemade suit, and so it's kind of got that Glitch Trap look, but it is also distinctive enough for you to not be like, hey, is that Glitch Trap? What kind of bunny character is that supposed to be? Like, it's distinctive enough to be like, all right, it's not Bonnie, and it's not any of William's designs. So it gets a plus from me in terms of character designs, because it is unique, and the mask is awesome. I love the mask design. They kind of change it for Ruin. They use the original Vanny mask design, which I don't like as much. But, you know, that's a topic for another day. But moving on to, I guess, our last character, Burn Trap. I've already made a whole video on, I guess, kind of Burn Trap. I'll show it here. But I made a video on how I think Burn Trap is not the Mimic, but is actually William Afton. I won't go into too many details here, because I would just recommend watching that video. I'll have it linked in the description if you want to check it out. But essentially, I think that Burn Trap, like the Burn Trap ending, never happened. I don't think Burn Trap was ever activated, but what I think is that Burn Trap is essentially William Afton. So obviously they were talking about the characters here, but I just think it's what's left of William after the FNAF 6 fire, and that essentially story-wise he stayed stuck in that cryo tube charger station thing, and he was never released. That's what I get, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the Security Breach and him in the game. So I just wanted to make sure I had that out there first before people would ask, so that you can just go watch that video. Anyway, whatever, I'm just kind of blabbing on. But I think in the game he kind of just comes out of nowhere. Like, you go down there and you're like, oh, I'm at the Pizza Sim location. That's cool, I guess. Oh, he's down here too? Alright, cool, I guess. Oh, it's a boss fight? Oh, but I, like, don't get to see him? Alright, I don't really like that, but okay. Oh, he's dead. Alright, cool, I guess I won? I don't know. Like, he was just heavily underutilized in a game that I don't think he really should have been in. I really think that the game would have been better off having a Vanny boss battle than it would have been to have a half-made Burn Trap boss fight. He really didn't need to be in the game. Like, it's a cool design, and he looks pretty cool, and he kind of sounds pretty cool. He's got some creepy laughs, but I just don't think he should have been in the game. Like, it's a Vanny game, but kind of like Sister Location, she gets kind of kicked out of the way for William to come back. And I just think that's a bad decision to do. They should have just made it a Vanny game, and you can kind of hint at Burn Trap if you want, and maybe have it be like a super secret ending that you can get, that you can fight him, but like kind of hint at him through the game, but then make it a mostly Vanny game. That's what would have been better. But how he was used kind of sucks, but he does look cool, I guess. So, you know, there's that. He doesn't look like Scrap Trap. So there's a plus there. And I guess with that, you know, that brings the characters down to an end, I guess. What else was I going to talk about? Story-wise, I guess we kind of talked about that a little bit with the characters, so I won't go over that too much. I guess the only thing I wish is that it would have been an actual 5 nights rather than 1 night, because the game's called Five Nights at Freddy's. I brought this up, I think I brought this up back when I was replaying it earlier this year, but I think it's funny that how long is the FNAF movie? Like an hour and a half, something like that, I think. I think it's funny that the FNAF movie in its hour and a half-ish run was able to have 5 nights, and the Security Breach game, which you can play for even longer, only has 1. I think it's pretty ironic that a shorter media thing it was able to have 5 nights, and an actual game only has 1. So I really wish they had done 5, because I think it would have made a more interesting game to play. Especially with the fact that it's like a free roam, kind of explore on your own time kind of a game. I think it would have been more interesting to have, alright, you go home and you have downtime, and so like not like you have to walk out of the building and then you walk home and you're like sitting in your house and you're like, I don't know, like you won't have that, but you'd have like a leave, and then sort of like how Sister Location has, like you sit at home and you watch TV for a minute, have something like that, and then you come back after you're done and you go into the next night, something like that. I think it would have made it more cool, and it would have allowed for it to be like, alright, well, after the first night some stuff got moved around, so now you have to find a different way to reach this point or something like that. Like, it would have just made the game more dynamic, but that would have also probably been a lot longer for development. I don't know, I'm not a game developer, but I just think that would have been a better use of the game. So I guess that's sort of story there. And to kind of wrap things up, I'll talk about gameplay, and then we'll do a quick conclusion, and I will stop rambling and let you guys get back to whatever you're doing. But to talk about gameplay, I think overall it's pretty much fine. There's really not much to complain about. I do wish that they had utilized the watch a bit better, because I like in one of the trailers, I don't remember which one it is, but one of the trailers you have Gregory like looks at his watch, and it actually looks like he's looking at a watch, and I think that's much better than what they went with, which it pulls up its own entire like full screen. And I just wish that they had actually kind of utilized that better, because it showed you the time, and it showed you the cameras on the watch rather than like a full screen camera. Also, those cameras suck. I'm sorry, I like almost never use the cameras. They suck. They're really bad. I don't know why. I don't know what they were thinking, but it was really bad. Like, that's probably one of the biggest complaints I have. Those cameras are awful. But there's just a lot of stuff that I never used, like the map on the watch. I never used the map. I don't even think I looked at it once. It's not helpful at all. It's easier to just run around and try to find what you're looking for than it is to use the map. So I think in that sense, the watch was heavily underutilized, or maybe not underutilized, but just heavily misused, I guess. So kind of sucks there, but whatever. I think aside from that, though, I think that the game is pretty solid. You know, it's free roam, so you run around, and I like some free roam games. You have your flashlight, you get some special tools like the Phaser Blast and the camera, so those are helpful. And the fact that you can kind of bring Freddy almost everywhere, but there's some places that you can't, I really do like. I think it makes it more fun. And I mean, that's really about it for gameplay. It's fairly simple. I just wish they had used the watch better. So I guess with that then, I will bring this very incoherent, rambling video to an end with a bit of a wrap-up conclusion, I guess. So, to give this game a score, I will give this game a solid 7 or 8 fast tokens out of 10, because I really do enjoy this game. I think it's a ton of fun. Even some of the bugs, I think it makes the game more fun. I'm the kind of person that's like, when I play a game and I experience like random bugs, if it's something that's like a consistent ruins the run, like I had it with Roxy, where it wasn't necessarily bugs, but like when you're doing the Roxy boss fight, it was just like a slog. It's not fun to go through there because she would just be able to see you out of nowhere, and it just wasn't very fun. I didn't have fun doing that. However, having Freddy phase out of an elevator and scare me is fun. So I think a lot of times bugs can make the game more fun, even if it kind of affects the game. If you get a good laugh out of it, I think that's all that really matters. So that's why I'm giving this 7 or 8 out of 10, because 1, it's a nostalgic game for me. 2, I love it. And 3, it's broken, but it is still a ton of fun. So, I mean, I can't really fault it there. And I guess then, with that, I'm going to end it here. It's a bit of a longer one, I know, but, you know, who cares? I just like rambling on. So, if you guys understood what I was saying, cool. If you guys are like, what the heck was he talking about? This video makes no sense. Also cool. You know, doesn't really bother me. I just make these for fun. So, you know, whatever. But I guess with that then, I will end it here. Stay tuned for the poll to go up. That's going to ask about what you guys want to see me do next. That'll be up, I guess, after this video goes live. But, yeah. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to go vote on what you want me to do next. And yeah, well, I guess we'll do Shameless Plugs, so go check those out. They're linked down below. Be sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed or if you could understand what I was saying. Leave a comment if you want to, if you got anything to say, or if you have any other game or discussion suggestions. You know, I'm always looking for more of those. Subscribe if you're new here, because I post content kind of like this. You know, discussions are every other week, but I post FNAF gaming content, so, you know, might as well subscribe. And yeah, I thank you guys for watching. I hope that you could understand what was happening in this video. And comment, I understand, if you made it this far in the video. And with that, I will see you in the next one. I guess it's going to be the live stream later today, so check it out. Goodbye.